Miles away from any semblance of civilization, Dr. Helen Carver adjusted the focus on her telescope. The observatory was her sanctum, a place where she could escape the mundane world and delve into the mysteries of the universe. But that night, the cosmos felt unusually hostile, as if mocking her human attempt to understand it. Peter, her colleague and an astrophysicist, browsed through recent data on the computer screens. He had been quiet all evening, consumed by an analysis that he wasn't ready to discuss. The tension was palpable, and the air thick with a sense of foreboding. "You should take a look at this," Peter finally broke the silence. His voice trembled as he gestured toward a set of coordinates on one of the screens. Helen approached cautiously, unprepared for whatever anomaly had seized her colleague's attention. Staring at the screen, Helen felt a chill run down her spine. The data defied all logic and reason, presenting an anomaly so vast and complex that it seemed to mock their very understanding of physics. As she pondered the implications, the room grew colder and the machinery hummed in a disconcerting rhythm. Just then, the ground beneath them trembled. A low guttural sound filled the air as if the universe itself was groaning in agony. Both scientists exchanged a glance of dread, suddenly aware that their quest for knowledge had crossed a forbidden boundary. Forced to abandon the observatory, Helen and Peter sought answers in academic circles. Every expert they consulted dismissed their data as flawed or tampered with, exacerbating their sense of isolation. Ignored by the world, they realized they were on their own in solving or surviving this cosmic riddle. Undeterred, they set up a makeshift lab in Helen's garage, isolated from the skeptics and naysayers. It was a refuge, but also a prison, the walls lined with increasingly incomprehensible data and calculations. As days turned into nights, time lost its meaning, blurring into a constant state of anxious urgency. In a sleep-deprived haze, Peter suggested they perform a radical experiment, one that conventional science would deem too risky. Helen hesitated, her instincts warning her of irreversible consequences. Yet the thirst for answers won over, and they commenced the experiment, fully aware of the Pandora's box they were about to open. The machinery whirred to life, vibrating in resonance with the mysterious cosmic signals they had discovered. As the room filled with a cacophony of unnatural sounds, Helen felt the walls closing in, the reality itself distorting in harmony with their experiment. Suddenly the lights flickered, and the machinery shut down. But it was far from over. From the remnants of their experiment, an impossible shape materialized, a geometry that defied the laws of physics. It was horrifying yet captivating, as if offering a glimpse into an unfathomable realm. No longer bound by academic skepticism or self-doubt, Helen and Peter were in uncharted territory. The impossible shape that had materialized hovered in the air, pulsating as if it were alive. It was a grotesque parody of a celestial body, distorting the air around it like a black hole in miniature. Despite the dread it invoked, the object seemed to beckon them, pulling them into its warped reality. With a sense of morbid fascination, Peter reached out to touch it, ignoring Helen's stifled warning. As his fingers made contact, he recoiled in agony, his entire being convulsing as if struck by an unfathomable force. Unable to speak, Peter's face contorted into an expression of pure terror. His eyes, once full of curiosity, were now vacant, void of any semblance of humanity. It was as if the very essence of his being had been drained, leaving only a hollow shell. Helen could only watch in horror, paralyzed by the realization that they had unleashed something beyond their comprehension. The object began to disintegrate, its form dissipating into a cloud of dark energy that enveloped the room. As it touched her, she felt a rush of conflicting emotions, terror, despair, and an overwhelming curiosity that eclipsed her sanity. As the energy cloud dispersed, Helen found herself alone in the room. Peter had vanished, leaving only a lingering sense of loss and an insatiable desire to understand the unknown. It was a turning point, a moment that marked her irrevocable descent into cosmic madness. Stripped of her previous life and burdened with knowledge she couldn't unlearn, Helen was a fugitive of her own mind. She left the remnants of her garage lab behind, embarking on a solitary journey to seek solitude, or perhaps some semblance of redemption. She took refuge in an abandoned cabin deep in the mountains, where the sky seemed to mock her with its serene beauty. There she indulged in books of forgotten lore, ancient texts that hinted at the existence of realities beyond human comprehension. Her only company was the haunting memories of Peter, and the lingering dread that the cosmic anomaly had imprinted upon her. One fateful night, a thunderstorm echoed her inner turmoil, its rumbling resonating with her fragile sanity. Guided by intuition or perhaps desperation, Helen performed a ritual described in one of the ancient texts. She had nothing to lose and a universe to understand. As she chanted archaic verses, the atmosphere grew tense, filled with static electricity. The ground quivered as if responding to her plea. Then, a ray of ethereal light broke through the storm clouds, engulfing her in an otherworldly glow. At that moment, Helen felt a wave of clarity, as if she had tapped into the very fabric of the universe. Though she knew she would never be free of the cosmic horror that haunted her, she had found a way to coexist with it, to channel it through her newfound understanding. Years passed since that transformative night in the mountains. Helen had returned to society, but not as the woman she once was. Cloaked in enigma and estranged from her past, she found a new purpose as a reclusive author, penning works that touched the fringe of cosmic understanding. Her books were met with skepticism and awe, becoming cult classics that divided readers between heresy and enlightenment. Though she never sought recognition, her works found a life of their own, serving as a gateway for others to explore the mysteries of the universe, much like she had. In her solitude, Helen often wondered about Peter, the man lost in the labyrinth of cosmic horror. He remained an eternal enigma, a haunting shadow that reminded her of the perilous path she had tread. But she had also come to terms with the uncertainty, accepting it as an integral part of her distorted reality. On quiet nights, when the sky was clear, Helen would return to her telescope, her first love. She'd gaze into the vastness, acknowledging the infinite enigmas that stretched beyond the stars, but instead of dread or confusion, she now felt a profound sense of belonging. As she observed a peculiar celestial phenomenon, her eyes widened, not in fear but in recognition, for she knew that the universe was not a place of isolated entities, but a complex tapestry of interconnected realities. And in that moment, Helen felt at peace, her fractured sanity mending itself in the cosmic ballet of existence.